Thank you so much for having us. You're over here, Mr. President. Thank you. Kaylee.
Okay.
Mr. President, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you taking the time.
Good.
And we appreciate your commitment to answer our questions.
Sure.
Really appreciate that. Over the years, I've heard you talk about your adherence to a philosophy called positive thinking. This is the mantra that if you believe something, if you visualize it, then it will happen.
To an extent, I also think in terms of the downside.
Right.
I've been given a lot of credit for positive thinking, but I also think about downside, because only a fool doesn't.
To what extent do you think that that positive thinking mindset is suitable to handling the worst pandemic that we've seen in a century?
I think you have to have a positive outlook. Otherwise, you would have nothing without a positive outlook. I think we've done an incredible job between the ventilators and stopping very infected people from China coming in, meaning putting the ban on China, which frankly nobody wanted me to do, practically nobody, because it was very early in January. Then putting the ban on Europe, not an easy thing to do. When you put a ban on Europe, that's a big thing. We would have probably lost hundreds of thousands of lives more had I not done that. And all of the experts, every one of them, not one of them wanted to do it. They thought it was too severe. 3 months later, they're all saying, I'm glad you did it.
The criticism of you that is most prominent is about the communication. It's the public health experts saying that it needs to be based in reality. And they're saying that the wishful thinking and the salesmanship is just not suitable at a time when a pandemic has killed 145,000 Americans. And it's that I understand what you're saying, that people need to hear positive thinking. But, you know, for the past 5 months, it's been the virus is totally under control, and the cases have been going up and the deaths have been going up.
Look.
But you've been saying it's under control.
Nobody knew what this thing was all about. This has never happened before. 1917, but it was a totally different, it was a flu in that case, okay? But other than 1917, there's never been anything like this. And by the way, if you watch the fake news on television, they don't even talk about it. But you know, there are 188 other countries right now that are suffering, some proportionately far greater than we are, okay? As bad as we are.
Very few.
Some proportionately greater than we are. Right now, Spain is having a big spike. There are tremendous problems in the world. You look at Moscow, look at what's going on with Moscow. Look at Brazil, look at these countries, what's going on. This was sent to us by China, one way or the other, and we're never gonna forget it. Believe me, we're never gonna forget it. And we were beating China at every single point. We were beating them on trade. We were making progress like nobody's ever made progress. They had, before the pandemic, they had the worst year, Jonathan, that they've had in 67 years. You know that, with the tariffs and everything else I did. We were taking in billions of dollars. I was giving some of it to the farmers. The farmers were doing well because they were targeting the farmers. I was targeting China. We were doing good. Then all of a sudden the game changed and I had to close it down. I closed down the greatest economy ever in history. And then I closed it down. And now we're opening it. And we saved, by the way, by closing it down, we saved millions of lives. If we would have gone the herd, and we knew very little about the disease, if we would have gone herd, we would have lost millions of people, millions of people. One person's too much. We're at 140,000 people. One person is too much. We're at 140. We would have lost millions of people. And those people that really understand it, they said it's incredible the job that we've done. And again, I bring it up.
Who says that?
The ban banning China from coming in.
But it was already in here by the time. It was already here. Like by the time you banned China, it came in through Europe.
Nobody knew the extent. Nobody knew how contagious it was.
But the question is, Mr. President,
maybe China knew.
By June, we knew things were bad. And, you know, the last time I was with you was the day before your Tulsa rally in the Oval. And, you know, you were saying big, huge crowd, it was indoors.
By the way,
these people, they listen to you.
Excuse me, Jonathan.
Yeah.
We had a 19,000-seat stadium. First of all, we had 12,000 people, not 6,000, which you reported, another paper reported. But you couldn't even get in. It was like an armed camp.
Why would you have wanted that?
Because they had 120 Black Lives Matter people.
I understand, but why would you have wanted a huge
Tulsa,
crowd?
excuse me, wait. And Tulsa, well, because that area was a very good area at the time. It was an area that was pretty much over. After a month later, it started going up. That's a month later. But Tulsa was a very good, Oklahoma was doing very well as a state. It was almost free. It spiked a month later, month and a half, 2 months later, but it was a good area. We had a tremendous crowd. We had tremendous response. You couldn't even, it was like an armed camp. You couldn't even get through. You couldn't get anybody in.
But
we had 12,000 people. It was incorrectly reported. The other thing we had that nobody wants to talk about, so Fox broadcast it. It was the highest rating in the history of Fox television, Saturday night. It was the highest rating.
Mr. President.
My speech, well, wait a minute, you're saying something.
Yeah.
That speech was the highest rated speech in the history of Fox television on Saturday night. And nobody says that.
I think you misunderstand me. I'm criticizing your ability to draw a crowd. Are you kidding me? I've covered you for 5 years. You draw massive crowds, you get huge ratings. I'm asking about the public health.
And I canceled another one. I had to cancel it. Right. We were going to have a great crowd in New Hampshire, and I canceled it for the same reason.
But here's the question. You know, I've covered you for a long time. I've gone to your rallies. I've talked to your people. They love you. They listen to you. They listen to every word you say. They hang on your every word. They don't listen to me or the media or Fauci. They think we're fake news. They want to get their advice from you. And so when they hear you say everything's under control, don't worry about wearing masks, I mean, these are people, many of them are older people,
What's
Mr. President.
What's your definition of control? Yeah. Under the
it's giving them a false sense of security.
Now, I think it's under control. I'll tell you what.
How? 1,000 Americans are dying a day.
They are dying. That's true. And it is what it is. But that doesn't mean we aren't doing everything we can. It's under control as much as you can control it. This is a horrible plague that beset us.
You really think this is as much as we can control?
Well,
1,000 deaths a day?
I'd like to know if somebody, first of all, we have done a great job. We've gotten the governors everything they needed. They didn't do their job. Many of them didn't, and some of them did. Someday we'll sit down. We'll talk about the successful ones, the good ones. Look at that smile. The good ones and the bad. We had good and bad, and we had a lot in the middle. But we had some incredible governors. I could tell you right now who the great ones are and who the not-so-great ones are. But the governors do it. We gave them massive amounts of material.
Mr. President, you changed your message this week in terms of you cancelled the Jacksonville Convention. You said wear a mask. You're saying, you know, that it's going to get worse before it gets better. It's not something you like to say. I know you said that. The big question...
Not get worse like the original flow. You understand that. But
well, I hope not. It's 1,000.
Now if you look, Arizona's going down.
If I could just finish my question.
Texas is going down and Florida's going down.
The question is, are you going to, even some of your own aides wonder whether you would stick to that message until election day, whether in a week or two you won't say, right, we've got to reopen again, we can't do this stuff anymore, that you'll get bored of talking about the virus and go back to that sort of cheerleading?
I never get bored. I never get bored of talking about this. It's too big a thing. And again,
so will you stick to that message?
It could have been stopped by China. It should have been stopped by China, and it wasn't.
But now it's here.
We have
you're the
it
president.
Here. And I think I'm very consistent. No, this is a very serious thing. Do you think we have 140,000 people at this moment? This is a very, very serious situation. And what you have to do is handle it the best it can be handled. And again, I'm working with the governors. I got them tremendous amounts of equipment that they would have never gotten. Jonathan, they wouldn't have equipment now if I didn't get it.
When can you commit, by what date, that every American will have access to the same day testing that you get here in the White House?
Well, we have great testing. We're doing, and
by what
other
date?
People do. Let me explain. The testing. We have tested more people than any other country, than all of Europe put together times 2. We have tested more people than anybody ever thought of. India has 1.4 billion people. They've done 11 million tests. We've done 55, it'll be close to 60 million tests. And, you know, there are those that say, you can test too much. You do know that.
Who says that?
Oh, just read the manuals, read the books.
Manuals?
Read the
What
books.
manuals?
Read the books.
What books?
What testing does
No, I'm
is
sorry.
it shows, wait a minute,
Who
John,
said-
let me explain. What testing does, it shows cases. It shows where there may be cases. Other countries test, you know when they test? They test when somebody's sick. That's when they test. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong. Nobody's done it like we've done it. We've gotten absolutely no credit for it, but we've come up with so many different tests. The only thing that we have now is some people have to wait longer than we'd like them to.
It's a big problem.
We want point to point. We want to have a 5-minute to a 15-minute
Right.
test.
When do you think?
And like many others,
Every
from
American.
what I understand, we're close to 50% where it's point-to-point test. We are making thousands of instruments, thousands of tests right now, tens of thousands that can be distributed to various parts of the country. But you have to understand, and we've even sent some of them to other countries where they had a big problem. Jonathan, almost 50%, in fact, I think the number might be over, is immediate testing. The other's tough. You take a test, you have to send it to a laboratory. Let's say that takes a day. Let's say
Right.
it's a day.
It's difficult.
You know, so it's 3 or 4 or
understand.
5 days. There's nothing you do about that.
But when do you think we'll have it for
I
everyone?
think that you
What
will
day?
have that relatively soon. I mean, again,
What does that mean?
you already have half.
Yeah.
I would much rather get back to you because I don't
Okay.
want to have you
That's
write
fine.
in 1 month.
That's
I
fine.
didn't make it. I missed it by
Yeah,
a
yeah,
day,
I
and
get
it's
it.
a headline.
Mr. President, I want to talk about the federal intervention.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
one thing I would say about
Yeah.
testing. Because we test so much, we show cases. So we show many, many cases. We show tremendous number of, I know you're smiling when I say that,
No,
but I'm
but come on. I
telling you.
mean, I've heard you say this,
Other
but
countries don't test like we do,
you know-
so they don't show cases.
just a couple of points on that. I wasn't going to continue on the testing, but you said it. So we're testing so much because it's spread so far in America.
We're
And
testing
when you
so much because we had the ability to test.
Okay,
Because we
but-
came up with
but
tests.
South Korea-
Jonathan, we didn't even have a test. When I took over, we didn't even have a test. Now, in all fairness,
why would you have a test?
There was no test.
The virus
for
didn't
this.
exist. How would you have a
Excuse me, I was
test?
going to say,
Okay.
there was no test for this new. We didn't have a test because there was no test.
course.
In a very short order, we got one test, we got another test.
It was broken, the first
Many of those tests are now obsolete because we've,
Right.
you know, it's called science, and all of a sudden something's better. But because we tested so many people, 55, 60 million people very soon, we get cases. You test, some kid has even just a little runny nose, it's a case. And then you report many cases. So we look like we have more cases than massive countries like China, which, by the way, doesn't report, as you know.
Well, I don't put any stock in China's figures.
The
Yeah.
point is, because we are so much better at testing than any other country in the world, we show more cases.
The figure I look at is death. And death is going up now.
Okay,
And it's 1,000 a day.
If you look at death...
Yeah, it's
okay,
going
let's
up
look.
again.
Let's look.
Daily death.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death...
Yeah.
per-
It's started to go up
Here's
again.
one. Well, right here, the United States is lowest in numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
Lower than
We're
the
lower
world?
than
What does that
Europe.
In
Look,
what?
look.
In what?
Take a look. Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population. That's where the US is really bad.
Well,
Much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
you can't do that. You have
Why
to go,
can't I do that?
You have to go by where. Look, here is the United States. You have to go by the cases. The cases.
Why
are
not
dead.
as a proportion of
when
population?
we have somebody. What it says is when you have somebody that
Yeah.
where there's a case.
Oh, okay.
The people that live
Sure.
from
Oh.
those cases.
It's surely a relevant statistic to say if the US has X population and X percentage of death of that population
No,
versus
because you
South
have to
Korea.
go by the cases.
Well, look at South Korea,
If-
for example. 51 million population, 300 deaths. It's like, it's
You-
crazy
you don't
compared to
know
other
that.
countries. I do. It's
You
on the.
don't know
it's-
that.
You think they're faking their statistics, South Korea?
I
An
won't
advanced
get into
country?
that because I have a very good relationship
Yeah.
with the country, but you don't know that. And they have spikes. Look, here's
Germany,
one.
low,
Here's
9,000.
one. Here's one right here, United States. You take
Anyway.
the number of cases.
Okay.
Now look, we're last, meaning we're first.
Last, I don't know
We
what
have
we're
the
first
best.
in. As a
Well,
what?
take a look.
Okay,
Again, it's
I just-
cases.
Okay.
And we have cases because
mean,
of the testing. Wait,
1,000 Americans are dying a day, but I understand on cases it's different.
no, but you're not reporting it correctly, Jonathan.
I think I am, but
If you take a look at this other chart, Look, this is our testing, I believe. This is the testing, yeah.
Yeah, we do more tests.
No, wait a minute. Well, don't we get credit for that? And because we do more tests, we have more cases. In other words, we test more, we have... Now, take a look. The top one, that's a good thing, not a bad thing. The top, Jonathan.
If hospital rates were going down and deaths were going down, I'd say terrific. You deserve to be praised for testing, but they're all going up.
You know, they very rarely talk...
60,000 Americans are in hospital.
If you watch the news or read the papers, they usually talk about new cases, new cases, new cases.
I'm talking about death.
Well, you look at
death.
Up. Death is way down from where it was.
It's 1,000 a day. It was 2,500. It went down to 500. Now it's going up again.
Excuse me. Where it was is much higher than where it is right now.
It went down and it went up again.
But now it's going down again. It's going down in Arizona. It's going down in Florida.
Nationally,
it's going down in Texas. Take a look at this. These are the tests.
It's going down in Florida?
Yeah, it leveled out and it's going down. That's my report as of yesterday.
Anyway, Mr. President, if I could change subject.
It is going down in Arizona.
Arizona it is. Texas has big problems.
And it spiked and it's now going down in Florida. It's evened out and going down in Florida.
I'll have to see those figures.
But you have to look at this. This is the number of tests compared to the rest of the world.
I don't deny your figures. You've done more tests by far than the rest of the world. I don't deny that.
Because we've done more tests, we have more cases.
You can take more advantage.
Check it out.
Mr. President, different subject. It's been widely reported that the US has intelligence indicating that Russia paid bounties or offered to pay bounties to Taliban fighters to kill American soldiers. You had a phone call with Vladimir Putin on July 23rd. Did you bring up this issue?
No, that was a phone call to discuss other things. And frankly, that's an issue that many people said was fake news.
Who said it was fake news?
I think a lot of people. If you look at some of the wonderful folks from the Bush administration, some of them, not any friends of mine, were saying that it's a fake issue. But a lot of people said it's a fake issue.
There was dispute within the intelligence.
We had a call talking about nuclear proliferation, which is a very big subject, where they would like to do something and so would I. We discussed numerous things. We did not discuss that, no.
And you've never discussed it with him?
I have never discussed it with him, no. I would. I'd have no problem with it.
But you don't believe the intelligence? It's because you don't believe the intelligence, that's why.
Everything, it's interesting. Nobody ever brings up China. They always bring Russia, Russia, Russia. If we can do something with Russia in terms of nuclear proliferation, which is a very big problem, bigger problem than global warming, a much bigger problem than global warming in terms of the real world, that would be a great thing. But it never reached my desk. You know why? Because they didn't think it was intelligence. They didn't think it was real.
It was in your written brief, though, apparently.
They didn't think it was worthy of... I wouldn't mind. If it reached my desk, I would have done something about it. It never reached my desk because...
Do you read your written brief?
I do. I read a lot.
Really?
I read a lot. They like to say I don't read. I read a lot.
Your daily intelligence brief?
I comprehend extraordinarily well, probably better than anybody that you've interviewed in a long time. I read a lot. I spend a lot of time at meetings. Usually it's once a day or at least 2 or 3 times a week intelligence.
Because this was apparently
talking about India, talking about with the problems with China, talking about so many different elements of the world. The world is a very angry place. If you look all over the world, we call up, I see 22 soldiers were killed in India with China fighting over the border. It's been raging for many, many decades. And they've been fighting and back and forth. I have so many briefings on so many different countries, but this one didn't reach my desk.
The reason I say this is even if you don't believe this particular piece of intelligence, and there is dispute, no doubt, there is dispute in the intelligence community about it, your former, John Nicholson, former head of forces in Afghanistan, said, and this is when he was working for you, that Russia is supplying weapons to the Taliban. Isn't that enough to challenge Putin over the killings of US soldiers?
Well, we supplied weapons when they were fighting Russia too. You know, when they were fighting with the Taliban in Afghanistan.
It's a different era.
Well, it's a different. I'm just saying, yes.
But does that? How does that affect?
I'm just saying we did that too.
But how does that?
I don't know. I didn't ask Nicholson about that. He was there for a long time. Didn't have great success because he was there before me, and then ultimately I made a change.
But you surely heard that, right? I mean, it's well known in the intelligence community that they're arming the Taliban, Russia.
I don't know. When you say arming, is
supplying weapons.
Paying, or they?
Russia is supplying weapons and money to the Taliban.
I have heard that, but it's never it's never reached my desk.
I mean, he said it on the record when he was in.
Hey, Russia doesn't want anything to do with Afghanistan. Let me just tell you about Russia. Russia used to be a thing called the Soviet Union. Because of Afghanistan, they went bankrupt. They became Russia, just so you do understand, okay? The last thing that Russia wants to do is get too much involved with Afghanistan. They tried that once. It didn't work out too well.
Last question on this subject.
And by the way, we're largely out of Afghanistan, as you probably know.
Well, wanted to ask you about that. The US troop level in Afghanistan right now is roughly the same as it was when
you're wrong. No.
Mr. President, I'm sorry. We have to do...
Okay, are you ready?
No.
We'll be down in a very short... It's already planned.
Well, that's a different question.
Let me explain. We'll be down in a very short period of time to 8,000. Then we're going to be down to 4,000. We're negotiating right now. We've been there for 19 years.
I know.
19 years.
But if you just let me finish my question.
We'll be getting out.
I understand. Look, when you came in, it was 8,800. You boosted to 14,000, and now you're back down to 8,500.
We're now...
My question to you...
We'll be at 4,000. I'll give you the exact... Very soon. Very soon.
What will be the number? Very soon? 4,000?
Very soon, yeah.
Like how soon?
I don't want to tell you that. I don't want to tell you that.
It's big news.
What is that?
It's going down to 4,000, isn't it?
No, I've always said...
Well, what about Election Day?
We will get largely out.
On Election Day, how many American troops will be in Afghanistan?
Probably anywhere from 4,000 to 5,000.
That's almost as many as when you came into office.
No, it's not.
8,000.
We had much more. We had a lot of people over there, too.
8,800.
A lot of people. And we did a good job. We wiped out ISIS.
Have you thought about going down to zero?
Let me just tell you what you don't say. We took out in Syria, we took out ISIS. We 100% of the caliphate. When I took over Obama, it was totally rampant. ISIS was all over the place. We took them out, we captured them, we killed them. 100%, not 99%. I wanted to get out at 99. Everyone said, oh, please, would you stay? I stayed. 99% was good, but 100% of the caliphate. We took out Soleimani. We took out al-Baghdadi. We took out people that nobody thought possible. Al-Baghdadi was the biggest terrorist of them all. They couldn't find him. I took him out. Soleimani, even bigger. I took him out. I've done things that no other president's done. None, I mean, fortunately, not too many. They should have never been in the Middle East. The decision to go to the Middle East and get into the Middle East was the single biggest mistake made in the history of our country. That's my opinion.
You told Fox News recently that you couldn't say whether you'd accept the results of the 2020 election. What does that actually look like as the sitting president? I mean, it's unprecedented. What would that actually look like?
Hillary Clinton never accepted him.
She conceded on him.
She still doesn't accept him, and she got
that's an important point.
Easily.
That's an important point. She conceded on election night. Now, she grumbled about it and said all sorts of things.
Grumbled? She wrote books about it.
She wrote books.
Don't use the word grumbled.
Fine, but
she wrote books about it.
That's fine, but I'm just...
she got beaten easy.
I get it.
306 to 223.
I'm not disputing you beat Hillary Clinton.
That's a lot.
Listen, what I'm asking is you'll be the sitting president in the White House. What does that look like? Not accepting...
I'll tell you what it looks like.
Are you litigating?
Let me tell you what it looks like. Okay. So we have a new phenomena. It's called mail-in voting, where you send where a governor.
It's been here since the Civil War.
In terms of the kind of millions and millions of ballots, they've never.
It'll be bigger this year because of the pandemic.
Bigger, not bigger, massively bigger.
Yeah, because of the pandemic.
So they're going to send tens of millions of ballots to California, all over the place. Who's going to get them? I have a friend who lives in Westchester County.
They send applications, not that.
His son passed away. He had a beautiful, wonderful son, young man, passed away 7 years ago. He called me. He said, I just got a ballot
for
my son Robert. He died 7 years ago. Somebody got a ballot for a dog. Somebody got a ballot for something else. You got millions of ballots going. Nobody even knows where they're going. You look at some of the corruption having to do with universal mail-in voting. Absentee voting is okay. You have to apply. You have to go through a process.
You have to apply for mail-in.
Absentee voting
it's the same
is
thing.
good. Look,
let's do concrete. Let's do concrete.
Jonathan, they're sending out
applications.
Governors,
download them.
Millions of ballots.
No, they're not. It's applications. You can get them off the internet.
There is no way you can go through a mail-in vote without massive cheating.
I honestly don't understand this topic with you.
Go ahead.
The Republican Party has an extremally well-funded vote-by-mail program. Your campaign puts out emails telling people to vote by mail.
Correct.
Your daughter-in-law, Lara Trump, she did robocalls in California saying it's safe and secure, mail-in voting.
Let me tell you.
The Republican
we have
won.
No choice.
That was an all mail-in race.
Let me tell you. You ready?
Yeah.
We have no choice because right now we have many court cases that we're waiting. We have one filed in Western Pennsylvania. We have many court cases where we're trying to end it. We went through World War I, you went to the polls, you voted. We went through World War II, you went to the polls, you voted.
You've had mail-in voting since the Civil War.
And now because of the China virus, we're supposed to stay home, send millions of ballots all over the country, millions and millions. You know, you could have a case where this election won't be decided on the evening of November 3rd.
Absolutely.
This election could be decided 2 months later.
It won't be 2 months, but what's wrong with the proper mailing count?
It could be decided many months later.
Have you discussed?
You know why? Because lots of things will happen during that period of time, especially when you have tight margins. Lots of things can happen. There's never been anything like this when you try. Now, of course, right now we have to live with it, but we're challenging it in many courts,
You're going to litigate
all over the country.
Mr. President, the other day a reporter asked you about Ghislaine Maxwell. You said, quote, "I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, but I wish her well, whatever it is." Mr. President, Ghislaine Maxwell has been arrested on allegations of child sex trafficking. Why would you wish such a person well?
First of all, I don't know that, but I do know this.
She has. She's been arrested for that. You know that.
Her friend or boyfriend,
Epstein,
was either killed or committed suicide in jail. She's now in jail. Yeah, I wish her well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. Good luck. Let them prove somebody was guilty. I mean, do you know that
so
she's
you're
guilty?
saying you hope she doesn't die in jail? Is that what you mean by wish her well?
Her boyfriend died in jail, and people are still trying to figure out, how did it happen? Was it suicide? Was he killed? And I do wish her well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. I'm not looking bad for anybody. And they took that and
she's a alleged child sex trafficker.
Big deal. But all it is her boyfriend died. He died in jail. Was he killed? Was it suicide? I do. I wish her well.
Let's move to Portland. I'm sure you've seen the disturbing footage of people in fatigues beating the Navy veteran.
No.
Well,
here you go.
It's there.
The fake news.
It's not fake news. It's on video.
For
pepper spraying him.
59 days, these people were anarchists and agitators and some protesters, but these were anarchists.
Okay.
These people were beating the hell out of the city. They were beating up our federal buildings and our federal courthouse. We told the police to stop it. You make sure. And the police wouldn't do it. Not the police.
Your own Justice Department and Homeland Security Inspector Generals.
Excuse me.
Your Inspector Generals are investigating unconstitutional.
You're trying now to blame law enforcement instead of anarchists. Instead of Antifa.
I'm not.
It's Antifa and anarchists that are causing the problems, not law enforcement. Our law enforcement, if we didn't have people at our courthouse, and they're strong, tough people, and they don't want, they try and be very good, believe me. But if we didn't have people there, you would have your federal courthouse, $600 million building. You would have that thing burned to the ground.
I'm asking you about tactics and about the unmarked vans where they're rounding people up. And I want to.
Let me tell you about
Can I just finish my question?
Well, let me tell you about unmarked.
Can I just finish my question because it relates to this? I promise. This is from Rand Paul. Quote, "We cannot give up liberty for security. Local law enforcement can and should be handling these situations in our cities, but there is no place for federal troops or unidentified federal agents rounding people up at will." What is your response to Senator Paul?
First of all, these are Homeland Security people. They're securing a courthouse.
They're Border Patrol.
They're Homeland Security.
Elite units.
Border. Hopefully they have
Camo,
ICE in there. Hopefully they have ICE. Now, do you know why they're unmarked? Because these terrorists, these Antifa people, these people that are anarchists and agitators, when they see the name on a uniform of a person, a policeman, a law enforcement person, they find out where that person lives. And then they go and they scare the hell out of the person's family. And so they do it for that reason. It's just common sense. There's nothing secret about this. And you know it. You see it, what's going on right now. We have Chad Wolf. They have people. He's doing a fantastic job. He's the acting head. He's doing a fantastic job. Chad Wolf has pickets out, very dangerous-looking people outside of his house. He's going to be just fine. He's tough and he's got people. But if you have the names on all of these uniforms, you'll have these maniacs in front of their houses scaring their family and their wives or husbands, whatever it may be. I think it's a very good reason not to have your name. Why should you have identification? My name is Bill Smith, and here's where I live, and I'm a member of...
The really serious concern is
No,
the
that's
reports...
a,
No, not
that's
about that.
Serious
the serious
concern
is the reports of people being rounded up and not being told why they're being detained. That's what's being investigated by... Mr. President, the Inspectors Generals... The Inspectors Generals...
You know why they're being detained? Well, yeah...
There's an investigation. Do you support that investigation?
Well, I haven't seen the result yet.
But do you support the initiative of it?
No, I think that actually...
You don't?
I think Antifa should be investigated, not the law enforcement. They're investigating things...
They shouldn't be investigating.
Have you been watching television?
I have.
Have you been seeing the violence? And
Sure.
Now, if you watch NBC News, like I watch NBC Fake News, I'm watching it, Lester Holt, real beauty, and I'm watching this NBC News sham, and you have a mayor named Wheeler, and he's standing out there, and he's being accosted by the people. You know that. I mean, it's horrible what they're doing to him. Portland, the mayor of Portland. And he thought he'd go out, he'd be a... What they were doing and saying and everything else to him, I happened to watch it on a different station. He had to get out. He had 5 security guards. He got out with his life. Okay.
Mr. President.
If you watch, you watch NBC News, they make him like he's standing there bravely fighting with the people in a positive sense, that everything is wonderful. No. He went out there. He's lucky he got away with his life because they would have killed him. He had 5 guards, but NBC News showed it like he's standing with the people for justice. Look, those people, take a look at what they've done to the courthouse. Take a look at what they've done to the streets. Take a look at the violence.
It's getting worse since they've gone in.
No, actually, it's getting better. We had we've arrested a lot of people, and we now have a 10-year rule. You try and knock down our courthouse.
More businesses damaged, more violence.
You touch our courthouse, you go to jail for 10 years.
Turning to the rest of the country, we haven't seen protests like this since the 60s. I mean, we're seeing...
These are Democrat-run
if I can finish my question.
Cities.
If I can finish my question.
And they're doing it for political reasons.
You said you've done so much for African Americans.
I have.
But there are Americans...
Criminal justice
I understand.
reform, opportunity.
But let me finish. There are Americans out in the streets asking for change. Mr. President, have you ever met with a Black Lives Matter activist to hear them out, hear their arguments?
Well, Black Lives Matter started off, to me, very badly because it was...
Did you ever meet with one?
Pigs in a blanket, burn them like bacon. That was the first time I ever heard of black. That was 3 or 4 years ago.
Right.
Pigs, meaning policemen. Pigs is what they're referring to, in a blanket, fry them like bacon. I thought it was, so I got off to a bad start. I got off to a very bad start.
Would you meet with a Black Lives Matter activist?
I would, but I think right now when they paint,
Why haven't you?
When they paint the sign, nobody's asked for a meeting, right? Nobody's ever asked me for a meeting. Let me tell you, with African Americans, I'm doing very well. They had the best employment numbers they've ever had. They had the best job numbers they've ever had. They were making more money than they ever made. We were all set until we got hit by China with the virus. Jonathan, we were becoming a very unified country.
Do you believe,
because of success?
I understand. Do you believe, though, Mr. President, that many police treat black people differently from white people?
Well, I hope not. I hope not. Certainly
You've seen the statistics.
The knee on the neck was a disgrace, okay?
Yeah.
It was a disgrace.
I'm talking about, what does systemic racism mean to you?
I hope the answer to that question is no. Does anybody really answer that question accurately?
But what about not
really
hope?
know?
What about analysis? What's your cold-hearted view
I have
of it?
seen where there is a difference, and I don't want there to be a difference. I don't like that there would be a difference. But with that being said,
why do you think black men are
police
2.5
have
times?
killed white people.
I know, but why do you think black
In
men
a larger number,
in quantity?
police have killed white people.
But why do you think black men are 2.5 times more likely to be killed by police than white men?
That I don't know, but
Why? Why do you
I
think
don't
that?
like it.
But you must have thought
Why?
about it.
I don't know why, but I don't like it. I do know this.
Does it speak to
that
something
police
systemic?
have killed many white people also.
But proportionally, what does it speak to?
It speaks to something, if that's the number, you're telling
is the
me a
number.
number. Okay, if that's the number, it speaks to something that to me is unacceptable.
And what do you do about it then?
Well, I think we've already done a lot of
But you
things.
haven't. It still exists.
Let me just tell you.
No. I understand your achievements. I know what you're going to say. I'm not suggesting you haven't done a lot
I've done
economically.
a thing called criminal justice
I get it.
reform.
I'm just saying what
that your
changes.
friend President Obama couldn't
It's
get
not my
done.
friend.
He
I'm
tried,
asking about that
he
statistic.
tried, but he couldn't get it done. I got criminal
I get
justice.
it. I get it.
I got opportunity zones. I took care of the historically black. You know, if you look at what I've done for colleges, for black colleges and universities, I got them funding. Obama never did it. I did more for the black community than anybody with the possible exception of Abraham Lincoln, whether you like it or not. People say, oh, that's
you really you believe you did more than Lyndon Johnson, who passed the Civil Rights Act?
I think I did, yeah.
How?
Because I got criminal
did you
justice reform done. I got prison reform.
Lyndon Johnson.
I've done things. Well,
he passed the Civil Rights
ask,
Act.
How has it worked out? If you take a look at what Lyndon Johnson did.
You think the Civil Rights Act was a mistake?
How has it worked out? Because frankly, it took a long time. But for African Americans, under my administration, Jonathan, under my administration, African Americans were doing better than they had ever done in the history of this country. So I did a lot. Job numbers, all of the money. They had money. They were getting great. Their percentage was up. Their housing ownership was up. They did better than they've ever done until we got hit. And now, you know what we're doing? I'm building it up again. We're going to have it. Next year will be a great year, unless it's screwed up by somebody that doesn't know what he's doing, which could happen, but I don't think it will.
John Lewis is lying in state in the US Capitol. How do you think history will remember John Lewis?
I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know. I don't know John Lewis. He chose not to come to my inauguration. He chose, I never met John Lewis, actually. I don't believe.
Do you find him impressive?
I can't say one way or the other. I find a lot of people impressive. I find many people not impressive. But I didn't go.
Do you find his story impressive?
He didn't come to my inauguration. He didn't come to my State of the Union speeches. And that's okay. That's his right. And again, nobody has done more for black Americans than I have.
I understand.
He should have come. I think he made a big mistake.
But taking your relationship with him out of it, do you find his story impressive, what he's done for this country?
He was a person that devoted a lot of energy and a lot of heart to civil rights, but there were many others also.
There's a petition to rename the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama as the John Lewis Bridge. Would you support that idea?
I would have no objection to it if they'd like to do it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Would have no objection to it whatsoever.
Okay. Mr. President, you've been so generous with your time, and we really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Great honor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.